Rome was supposed to celebrate him. The wars were over. The victories were impossible to ignore. Across Gaul, entire tribes had fallen beneath Roman conquest. Gold, slaves, and glory poured back toward the Republic, and at the center of it all was one man, Julius Caesar, not a king, not an emperor, a Roman general. But by the time he began returning toward Italy, Rome was already becoming afraid, because victory had changed him. His soldiers no longer followed the Republic first. They followed Caesar. The people admired him. The army worshipped him. And every conquest had made his name larger, more powerful, more dangerous. Inside Rome, senators whispered behind closed doors. Men who once praised Caesar now watched the northern roads with growing unease. Because Rome had seen ambitious generals before, but this felt different. Caesar did not merely look successful anymore. He looked unstoppable, and the Republic was beginning to realize something terrifying. The man who conquered Rome's enemies might soon become the greatest threat to Rome itself. Some feared dictatorship. Others feared civil war. Many feared both. And somewhere between glory and paranoia, the Roman Republic quietly began preparing for betrayal. Long before armies marched behind him, before senators feared him, before his name became legendary, Julius Caesar was simply another ambitious man trying to survive the brutal world of Roman politics. And Rome was not a peaceful republic of honor like later generations imagined. It was ruthless, competitive, unstable. Power in Rome was built through influence, alliances, money, and public image. Families fought constantly for status. Politicians destroyed each other for advancement. Reputation meant everything, and Caesar understood this world extremely well. He was intelligent, charismatic, and dangerously ambitious. Even as a young man, he refused to think small. While others chased influence inside Rome, Caesar wanted something greater. Glory, the kind that could not be ignored. But ambition alone was not enough. Caesar struggled with debt. He needed political allies. He needed opportunities powerful enough to separate him from every other Roman noble competing for attention. So he built alliances carefully. One of the most important was with two powerful men: Pompey, Rome's celebrated military hero, and Crassus, one of the richest men in the Republic. Together, they formed an unofficial political alliance later known as the First Triumvirate. It was not built on trust. It was built on usefulness. Each man needed the others to increase his own power. And Caesar used this alliance brilliantly. Because while many senators saw him as ambitious, very few yet understood how far that ambition could go. Then opportunity appeared. A military command far from Rome. Gaul. To some, it looked dangerous. To Caesar, it looked like destiny. Because in Rome, political influence could disappear overnight. But military glory? Military glory could transform a man into something untouchable. And once Caesar marched north into Gaul, everything began to change. Gaul was vast. Forests, rivers, mountains, tribal territories stretching across enormous distances beyond Rome's direct control. The campaigns there would not be short or easy, but Caesar understood something important. War could give him what politics alone never could: power, real power. At first, the campaign seemed like ordinary Roman expansion, another military operation at the edge of the Republic. But year after year, Caesar kept winning. Tribes resisted. He defeated them. Coalitions formed against him. He crushed them. Cities rebelled. Roman legions returned again and again with brutal efficiency. The deeper the war went, the larger Caesar's reputation became. And this was not only because of military success. It was because of how he led. Caesar moved quickly. He took risks other commanders avoided. He marched through terrible conditions beside his soldiers. He rewarded loyalty. He shared danger with the men under his command. Slowly, the legions stopped seeing themselves as soldiers fighting only for Rome. They began seeing themselves as Caesar's army. That change was dangerous, because Roman generals were supposed to serve the Republic, not become bigger than it. Meanwhile, back in Rome, reports of Caesar's victories spread constantly. New territories, captured wealth, defeated enemies, expanding borders. To ordinary citizens, he looked unstoppable. To many senators, he looked terrifying, especially because the war in Gaul was transforming Caesar psychologically. Victory changes people, and years of uninterrupted victory changed him profoundly. Each campaign increased his confidence. Each triumph increased his popularity. Each success made him believe more deeply in his own destiny, and the soldiers around him reinforced it constantly. They admired him, followed him, trusted him. Some would willingly die for him. That level of loyalty frightened Rome more than any foreign enemy, because now Caesar possessed something rare and dangerous: military glory, political influence, wealth, and an army personally devoted to him. The Republic had seen ambitious men before, but not many with this combination of power, and the victories continued. The war expanded across Gaul relentlessly. Entire regions fell under Roman control. Resistance collapsed piece by piece under the pressure of Caesar's campaigns. To the Roman people, it felt like greatness. To Caesar's enemies, it felt like a storm growing larger every year. And slowly, the question inside Rome began changing. At first, senators asked, "How successful will Caesar become?" Now they began asking, "What happens when he comes home?" While Caesar conquered Gaul, Rome itself was becoming unstable. Political rivalries intensified. Alliances weakened. Fear spread quietly through the Senate. The Republic was no longer dealing with a distant general winning wars overseas. It was dealing with a man becoming larger than the political system itself, and the balance that once protected Caesar was beginning to collapse. Crassus died during a disastrous military campaign in the east, destroying one of the key pillars holding the alliance together. Then Caesar's relationship with Pompey began deteriorating. Once they had cooperated for mutual benefit, now they were drifting toward rivalry. Pompey remained one of Rome's most respected military figures, but Caesar's growing popularity had begun overshadowing him. And many senators saw Pompey as the only man powerful enough to stop Caesar. That changed everything. Rome slowly divided into factions. Some supported Caesar. Others feared him deeply, and fear inside political systems is dangerous because it creates desperation. The Senate no longer viewed Caesar simply as a successful commander. They began viewing him as a potential threat to the Republic itself. Because every report arriving from Gaul carried the same terrifying message, Caesar kept winning. His army remained loyal. His influence kept growing. And unlike many Roman generals before him, he did not seem willing to fade quietly back into ordinary political life. The atmosphere inside Rome became tense, uncertain, paranoid. Men who once admired Caesar now questioned his intentions. Rumors spread constantly about what he might do if given enough power. Would he obey the Senate? Would he surrender command peacefully? Or had years of conquest changed him into something Rome could no longer control? Eventually, the political pressure reached its breaking point. The Senate issued a demand. Caesar must return to Rome without his army. To many Romans, this sounded reasonable, but Caesar understood the real meaning immediately. Without his legions, he would lose protection, lose leverage, lose power, and his enemies inside Rome would finally have the chance to destroy him politically. The Republic believed it was defending itself. Caesar believed he was being cornered, and somewhere in that growing tension, peace began disappearing, because now only two outcomes remained: submission or confrontation. By the time Julius Caesar reached the edge of Italy, the Republic was already standing on the edge of collapse. The tension between Caesar and the Senate had grown too large to contain peacefully. Messages moved back and forth. Political allies argued desperately. Some still hoped compromise was possible, but underneath the negotiations, both sides understood the truth. Neither trusted the other anymore. The Senate demanded obedience. Caesar believed obedience would destroy him, and now, between him and Rome, stood a small river in northern Italy, the Rubicon. Roman law was clear. A general was forbidden from entering Italy with an army. Crossing that river with soldiers would not be interpreted as political disagreement. It would mean rebellion, civil war, the destruction of the old order. For a moment, the future of Rome balanced on a single decision. Caesar could still stop. He could surrender command, return as an ordinary citizen, accept the authority of the Senate. But years of conquest had transformed him too deeply. He had spent too long commanding armies, winning victories, reshaping entire regions through force and ambition. Men like Caesar do not easily return to ordinary life. And perhaps more importantly, he no longer believed his enemies would allow him to survive politically if he surrendered. So Caesar made his choice. He crossed the Rubicon. And with that single act, the Republic entered a crisis from which it would never fully recover. The speed of events afterward shocked Rome. News spread rapidly through the city. Caesar was marching south, not against foreign enemies, against Rome itself. Fear exploded through the political class. Senators panicked. Powerful men fled the city. Families rushed to choose sides before the conflict consumed them, because suddenly the unthinkable had become reality. One of Rome's greatest generals was advancing toward Italy with an army personally loyal to him. And many Romans realized too late that the Republic had created the very danger it feared. For years, Rome rewarded conquest, rewarded military glory, rewarded ambitious men willing to dominate enemies through force. Now one of those men had become too powerful to control. Meanwhile, Caesar moved quickly. That speed became one of his greatest weapons. He understood hesitation could destroy him. If he appeared uncertain, resistance would strengthen. So he pushed forward aggressively, forcing Rome into constant reaction. Cities opened their gates. Opposition weakened. Supporters rallied around him. And everywhere Caesar advanced, the authority of the Senate appeared weaker and weaker. The Republic was no longer collapsing slowly through political corruption alone. Now it was collapsing under the pressure of competing power. Caesar claimed he was defending his rights and protecting himself from political enemies. His opponents claimed they were defending Roman liberty from dictatorship. But beneath all the speeches and political language, the struggle had become deeply personal. It was now about one terrifying question. Could the Republic survive a man more powerful than its laws? And with every mile Caesar marched toward Rome, that answer looked increasingly uncertain. Civil war transformed Rome into a battlefield of loyalty, ambition, and survival. Old alliances shattered completely. Friends became enemies. Political neutrality became almost impossible. Across the Republic, powerful figures were forced to decide whether they stood with Caesar or against him. At the center of the conflict stood Pompey, once Caesar's ally, now his greatest rival. Pompey still carried enormous prestige. Many senators believed he represented the last real defense against Caesar's growing dominance. If anyone could stop him, it was supposed to be Pompey. But Caesar moved with relentless momentum. That momentum had been forged during years of warfare in Gaul. Quick decisions, aggressive movement, constant pressure. He understood that fear and speed could break opposition before battles even began. And slowly, Caesar's enemies began losing confidence. The conflict spread across the Roman world. Armies maneuvered. Cities shifted allegiance. Political leaders fled from one region to another, trying to survive the chaos consuming the Republic. Then came the decisive confrontations. Pompey's forces were eventually defeated. And with that defeat, organized resistance against Caesar weakened dramatically. The balance of power inside Rome changed almost overnight. Now Julius Caesar stood above nearly everyone else in the Republic. The victories that once made him admired had now made him dominant. He returned not merely as a celebrated general, but as the single most powerful man in Rome. And strangely, this was the moment when the atmosphere around him became darkest. Because victory did not calm the Republic, victory intensified fear. At first, many Romans had supported Caesar because they believed he could restore order after years of instability and corruption. To ordinary citizens exhausted by political conflict, strong leadership felt attractive, but absolute power inside a republic creates anxiety, especially in Rome. For generations, Romans had feared monarchy. Their political identity was built around the idea that no single man should dominate the state completely. Now Caesar seemed dangerously close to becoming exactly that. His authority expanded rapidly. Honors accumulated around him. His image became unavoidable throughout Roman life. More and more decisions flowed through Caesar personally. To supporters, this looked like stability. To enemies, it looked like the slow death of the Republic. And the deeper Caesar moved into centralized power, the more isolated he quietly became. Because fear changes people. Some senators who publicly smiled beside him secretly feared what Rome was becoming. Others convinced themselves that Caesar would eventually destroy the Republic entirely if left alive. Conversations became quieter. Trust became weaker. Conspiracies began forming beneath the surface of Roman politics. Meanwhile, Caesar himself appeared increasingly confident. Perhaps too confident. Years of uninterrupted success can create a dangerous illusion that victory will continue forever. Caesar had survived political struggles, conquered Gaul, defeated rivals, won civil war. Again and again, he overcame obstacles that seemed impossible, and slowly, the idea of failure may have started feeling distant to him. But power creates enemies even faster than war does, especially when that power begins reshaping an entire political system. Rome had once celebrated Caesar as its protector. Now many feared he had become something far more dangerous. Not merely a victorious general, not merely a politician, but a man large enough to overshadow the republic itself. And inside that growing fear, assassination began to feel, to some Romans, not like murder, but like necessity. The conspiracy formed quietly, not in open rebellion, but in whispers, private meetings, and growing paranoia. Some of the men involved genuinely believed they were saving Rome. Others were driven by fear, pride, political survival, or resentment toward Caesar's overwhelming power. But together they shared one dangerous belief. If Caesar remained alive, the Republic itself might not survive. And that belief pushed them toward violence. By now, Caesar's authority appeared almost untouchable. Honors surrounded him constantly. Crowds admired him. Many soldiers still viewed him with fierce loyalty. Yet the closer Caesar moved toward absolute dominance, the more desperate his enemies became. That is the strange nature of power. At its highest point, it often becomes most vulnerable. The conspirators convinced themselves they were acting in defense of liberty. Rome, they believed, had always resisted kings. If one man controlled everything, then the republic would eventually disappear. So they prepared to strike before that future became permanent. Among the conspirators were senators Caesar trusted, men who had stood beside him politically, men who understood his routines, men who could approach him without suspicion. That betrayal mattered deeply, because Caesar had spent years defeating enemies on battlefields across the known world. Yet the greatest danger now stood beside him inside Rome itself. Then came the final day. Caesar entered the Senate meeting unaware that the Republic had already turned against him. The atmosphere was tense beneath the surface, but calm on the outside. The conspirators waited carefully for the right moment. And when it came, they moved together. Chaos erupted instantly. Not a battlefield, not a grand military confrontation. Just violence exploding suddenly in the political center of Rome. The man who conquered Gaul, the man who defeated rivals and survived civil war, fell beneath the blades of Roman senators. And in that moment, the Republic believed it had protected itself. But history would prove otherwise. Because Caesar's death did not restore stability, it created even more chaos, more war, more power struggles, more bloodshed. The system that killed Caesar was already too damaged to save itself. And perhaps the greatest irony of all was this. The men who assassinated Julius Caesar feared he would destroy the Republic. Yet after his death, the Republic moved even faster toward empire. Rome had tried to stop one man from becoming too powerful. Instead, it helped create a future where emperors would rule the Roman world for centuries. Julius Caesar was gone, but the age he helped create was only beginning. If you enjoyed this story of conquest, power, betrayal, and the fall of the Roman Republic, subscribe for more cinematic history documentaries exploring the rise and collapse of the greatest figures and empires in history.